So the focus of today's seminar is, top 10 digital trends of 2020. It's been a bit of a difficult one to put together, this one compared to last year where everything seemed quite clear. So to help me put this together this year, I've had a look at what our digital trends were last year, how has COVID had an impact on businesses, and where do we see digital elements and digital channels kind of going through. But I'll focus on the 10 key ones to begin with. So point number one, just to get straight into it, is social media. And as expected, social media is the top channel, one of the top media channels that you can invest in terms of digital marketing. Social media over the next year will become more about purchase instead of discovery. I always see social media as top of the funnel. So things that will drive people's interest and awareness, people that haven't really heard of your product before, to get them to know about the USPs of your products and services and drive them to the website. And then not necessarily they always convert on the site. Do you need to follow up with more detailed information such as SEO or paid search or further down the funnel to convert? But platforms like Facebook are going to try and make it a lot easier for you to go from discovery to purchase. And we're already noticing that now within the platform in terms of how, if you're on Facebook on mobile in the app, it kind of creates a Facebook variant of the web page of your website, so that when you close it down, you actually stay within the app. You never actually leave the Facebook app. You never actually open up that browser within your mobile phone. So that seamless path to purchase is going to come through and actually turn what I class as social media channels more into converters as opposed to top of the channel. So it's bringing that platform further down the purchase funnel. But more importantly, the channel which everyone should be paying attention to right now is TikTok. It's not new anymore. It has been around for a while. It was the highest downloaded app of 2020. There was only 2 months when TikTok wasn't the highest downloaded app of the month. And that was when iOS did an update, and so did Android, when everyone had to re-download WhatsApp, and when we all went into lockdown originally and everyone downloaded Zoom on their mobile phone. Every other month in the year of 2020, TikTok across iOS and Android was the most highest downloaded app. So if you're not on TikTok, you need to be on there. Plus, your consumers are on social media. In lockdown, they only have social media as a platform to communicate, to socialize. So if they're on there, why are you not engaging with them? There's so many opportunities to do that. This kind of leads into kind of the second trend that we're going to see, and it's kind of a given, but I want to explain why. So mobile video content. So a lot of last year, I talked about how it's going to be video or bust. And throughout the year, if you listen to some of our podcasts, I've talked about how video content is key, but more importantly now, it's mobile video content. And there is a difference. You can create video content that fits on your website, that can be used on your LinkedIn page, or can be used for different elements. But mobile video consumption has risen by 100% each year of the last couple of years. 1.5 times more likely are consumers to watch video on their mobile phones. It's a key trend and needs to be part of your core strategy. You've got platforms like Facebook and Instagram stories to, live Instagram TV, YouTube. Mobile videos can be displayed in a number of forms and formats. And in particular, it's low short videos such as 10 to 15 seconds, 30-second videos that are doing quite well, which is why TikTok is becoming more and more appealing to consumers. So remember, you can use videos to do explainer videos to show how your products and services work, to live videos where you host Q&As with your audience, engage with them in real time. Mobile video content is going to be the key, and what we're going to see, a key trend within that, is going towards mobile live video content. So people going live on Instagram, people going live on LinkedIn. We also saw the impact of LinkedIn stories coming in and people sharing videos on mobile. So you can just see how professional channels like LinkedIn are adapting to mobile content as well. Number 3, SEO has really, really changed focus. And I really loved what CEO and founder of Content Mender really said. And I really resonate with this, is that one trend to help you outrank your competitors will be consistency publishing longer form content that appeals to Google's EAT guidelines. For anyone who doesn't know what EAT guidelines are, it's Google's main principles. Google will always update their algorithm year on, year out to keep making sure that the competitive landscape stays as is, so that people don't game the system. So before you see a lot of people buying links, you can't do that. The EAT guidelines is what is Google's core focus moving forward. And that is all about expertise, So being an expert in your field, and in this group and this, webinar, we've got a number of experts in different fields. Authoritativeness. So, what kind of authority do you have? So if you look at Bobble, we do articles for Yorkshire Powerhouse. They link back to our Bobble website. So it builds the authority of our content as being experts, that we're publishing content on other people's websites. And then trustworthiness, how are people more likely to trust your content? And that all comes down to how many people are reading your content. So how well you rank. So these three key guideline elements are going to play a key. And what's going to help you with that, and what we've witnessed in 2020, is that blogs over 2,000 words dramatically outperform blogs of 1,000 words or less. Now, that's quite interesting because we say it's all about quality, not quantity, and that is still the case. However, what we've seen is that more people spending more time online, that actually longer form content is doing better. So we're expecting this form of content trend to continue into 2021. So if you're writing content for your website, consider longer form content, focus on quality, try and break it down and add in other elements that are relevant, that allow you to link through to other elements of your website or link out to other websites to build the authoritiveness. It's a key trend that we're going to see, and how SEO is going to really change its focus in 2021. 4, web personalization. Everything's locked down right now, and everyone was used to, as consumers, going into a store or going inside or going into a business and having that personalized experience. Now, nothing's really changed in terms of how consumers want product service, except that they have to go on digital. So what that means is personalization, although it's not really new, it's going to rise a lot in compared to what happened in terms of 2020. We have a number of e-commerce clients where we've got them to adapt their websites to be more personalized for individuals. And we'll talk about how AI software can help you do that in one of the trends further on. But you need to stand out. And the way to stand out is not by having a plain basic site. It's about making your site appeal to your ideal customers and personalizing it in different ways. The question you need to ask yourself is, how do you create the same experience online that a customer would have had in store? Customers still want that personalized experience. It just has to be digital now, and that comes through different elements, through messenger apps, through to live chatbots on your website, and through to people getting a call back, to even personalizing the messaging they see within their ad formats that drive them back to the site. So web personalization is going to be key, because that's going to be your main door, your main store to your potential customers throughout 2021. This is why I mentioned private messaging apps, because across the board, consumers are changing the ways they interact with brands, and customer service is no exception. So what we'll see within 2021 is that message apps will continue to have their presence and status within sites, and as an advertising tool too. You've got messaging apps such as Facebook Messenger. If you go onto our site, we've just implemented the Facebook Messenger chat portal with scripted responses should people add elements in, but we can then get notifications directly to our mobile phone when someone chats within Messenger to give an instant reply. So this is how you can use something. And by the way, it's a free tool, Messenger as well. You just need to take the code and plug in and implement it on your site. And what it means, if someone's on your site and has a question, you can offer that level of customer service to them straight away. And that's something you need to consider, because no one's out in the stores, no one's out going to businesses directly. Everyone's going to your website, as we discussed in our previous trend. So the question is, they're going to be more satisfied and engaged if you're offering them more tools like private messaging apps for them to ask more questions and get the information they need to complete that action, whether it is book a demo, buy a product, or invest into your services. And the last element that kind of trends from this, but is going to be a key trend through 2021, is AI software. So what this means is evolving beyond the age of personalization and entering an age of personal commerce, where basically your customers create the experiences they want. And that's based on what they've done in the past on your site. This is predominantly more for anyone who works within the e-com sector, but can still be relevant to those within business to business, because there are still businesses out there that are B2B focused that still sell products on site. So by AI software, we mean by a great example is we all have, I'm assuming most people have an Amazon account, but you notice that Amazon personalizes your experience on site, and it uses AI software to look at what you bought previously, what you searched for on their site previously, what kind of reviews you've left. It's taking all that data and within a software, then personalizing it and kind of co-creating with you based on what you're actively searching for and looking for in terms of products on their site, recommended tailored products for you, so you're more likely to buy. And this is what e-com clients need to be doing through 2021. It's what we're doing with one of our furniture clients, and they're seeing huge returns right now in terms of e-com and sales, a significant uplift. The on-site retention of customers is much, much higher because what they're doing is they're going to site often, and based on what they're viewing previously, the AI software is then recommending them products. And the best thing about it is when they come back, the first message they see on the homepage is, welcome back to Comfy Homes. It's not welcome to Comfy Homes. We know they've already been to the site, so it's welcome back. So it's that personalization, but using AI software to actually create, what we say more, about what matters in terms of what customers want from the brand. So it's not about where they are, it's about telling them what and when they want it. And when you can be in that position, then you're going to really, really improve your results throughout 2021 if you invest in things like AI software. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, we'll be more than happy to do another talk or explain that in more detail. Micro-influencers. So the rise of TikTok, YouTube streaming, gaming, even over lockdown, rose significantly. But if you want to start tapping into influencers within the market, my advice would be to actually go and target micro-influencers. Why? Because influencers with 10 to 50,000 followers have an average of 40% higher engagement rate than those with 500,000 to 1 million followers. Micro-influencers have the highest engagement rates, averaging 7%. So people that are engaging with their posts, commenting, liking, sharing on social media, compared to 3% with those of 100,000 plus. So you might go out and see a lot of people with a high number of followers and think we want that audience, but just know that not necessarily all that audience is engaged with that influencer. So if you're looking to invest into or get into influencer marketing, I would suggest target micro-influencers. One thing I like to say is that many influencers built their personal brands around flawless snapshots of Sunday brunches and what I call rooftop poses. This vanity-driven style is no longer resonating like it used to. The consumer mind has switched and focused elsewhere in recent times, in over recent months, to focus more on original content, more around emotion, more around, creating memes and more funny content, which is why TikTok does quite well, because people find it funny and engaging. But micro-influencers offer you something which is different, which is tailored audiences, and those audience that will be following someone who might be specializing in a particular element of what they do. For example, it might be a particular food channel with a few followers. That might be more relevant to a food organization if you want to partnership with that level of interaction as part of your marketing strategy. Podcasting. Honestly, it's if you haven't set up a podcast yet, what are you waiting for? Or if you haven't started advertising with podcasts yet, what are you waiting for? In 2017, the revenue in the US for podcasting was 314 million. Last year, I talked about how that was going to grow by 110%. So around about 650 million in 2020. And that was according to the IAB. In fact, the recent IAB study that came out said that actually in 2021, podcast advertisers will exceed $1 billion in 2021. So it's extremely popular right now. It's informative content that offers a range of topics to your customers. We launched our podcast back in September as part of the Leeds Digital Festival, and we bring together, different experts from other agencies. So we have a CEO of Trio Digital or Trio Media. We have the CEO of Burnwee, which is a video agency, coming together and offering, insightful insights into the digital marketing world in terms of how should they be using video, how should they be using content and PR, how should they be using digital media, and talking about the recent topics of what's going on and how that impacts them. Our next one actually comes out this week, so keep an eye out for that. So because it's tailored content and people are following particular podcasts based on the type of content that podcast offers in terms of genre or sector, it allows for much more tailored advertising to a particular audience. So, in my opinion, the best podcast I've come across is Kate Leeson's I Shouldn't Say This Book, because it's so varied. It focuses on the personal well-being and mental health of someone and shares honest opinions. So that's why I like it, because it's very, very informative. I find it useful to my daily lives. But if you're really looking for a new podcast, why not listen to Bobble Pod? A little bit of a plug there, which I will shamelessly admit. So, try and find a podcast based on your interest and likes. But what you'll start noticing throughout 2021 is you'll start seeing more relevant advertising to you based on the podcasts and content you're consuming. Augmented reality. Now, not many of you might know, but Facebook own Oculus and dozens of, augmented reality patents that they have. It's only going to be a matter of time before digital growth experts such as myself start to incorporate AI into digital engagement. We as an agency are already looking into this because we've looked into AI technology. The next stage for some of our e-commerce clients is how do we take augmented reality to mobile phones, such as what you'll start seeing is more and more companies implementing augmented reality to sell their products in ways that when you're shopping on mobile on their website, you'll be able to actually directly place that product in your household, whether it's a couch or a dining table or a lamp or a clock, and actually place on the wall where you'd want to be and see a real life 3D model of your room with that product to give you a better visualization. And that's all going to come from augmented reality. Now, it's still at the, what I say, periphery, but now's the time to start researching and learning, because as people tend to work more from home, as people are adapting more towards digital channels and platforms, particularly mobile, then you need to be, as a business, looking at augmented reality to see what are the benefits, not just from the e-com point of view, but what are the benefits for you as a business to kind of showcase your products, your store or your business, and learn how you can adapt that in the future. The businesses that always do well, the ones that are quick to the trend. So the quicker you are to a trend and adapting it, the more of an expert you become into that trend and able to then become like a leader or authoritarian within that particular trend of what's going on. And finally, virtual events. They started out as a necessity, but they're here to stay because of ROI and accessibility. Virtual events are just not considered as obviously safe because of the safety concerns with COVID of what's going on. We're in our third lockdown within 12 months. A lot of you have signed up to our event, and why do we do it? Not out of necessity. We love sharing our education, our thoughts, our experiencing, our trends with consumers. We did that as a physical event. We prefer to do it as a physical event, but the only reason why we do this is ROI and accessibility to us as a business. And I'm happy to admit that, because the benefit of doing this is I've recorded the event, I've created content, that content's going to go on my website, that video is going to go on our YouTube, that video is going to get shared across social media. Anyone, all it takes is one person to see that and think, okay, this agency and these people know what they're talking about. I need to reach out to them and contact them about my digital marketing strategy. So there is an underlying benefit of doing this more than just necessity. It is ROI and accessibility. The benefit to you as a consumer is it's free, you get to network and you get to learn, and you get access to all this information. So by going virtual, open yourselves up to your customers, invite them in. It's more accessible than in-person events because you can't get around to everyone. But I think with, you just got to look at some of the stuff being done by, Meet Now, the Meow brand that launched last year, and how that small level of networking and virtual events are doing quite well. Look at Stuart in the group who does his virtual Yorkshire Powerhouses online that are very, very effective, and how many people turn up. You just got to look at the numbers of people turning up to digital events. Continue with virtual events. It's an opportunity for you as a business to showcase your expertise, your education. It kind of shows how you're adapting with the times. But more importantly, it doesn't really cost you anything as a business except time and a bit of creativity. Don't do the mundane thing. Do try and think out of the box in terms of what you're doing. The way we do it is 30 minutes of networking, 15, 20-minute talk, because if we talked for the full hour, you would have lost interest. And we tried to make into digestible chunks, hence it's called bite size, and then open it to a Q&A, and then give you the content to use as you choose towards the end. That's the end of the presentation. I'd now like to invite everyone to come off mute and ask any questions about any of those trends that I've just gone through. To ask in person. So if anyone has a particular question, come off mute or raise your hand, and I will invite you to ask that question or respond as best as I can. Rachel Proctor, go ahead.
TikTok. I don't necessarily have it. Is it just young people on TikTok? So if I've got a young audience, or is it for B2B environment?
It started off as a young audience, but actually lockdown helped TikTok a lot, because anyone who was a parent and a kid had TikTok. They started getting their parents involved. Their parents started downloading TikTok. You know, it's close to Instagram in terms of average monthly users. And Instagram isn't just a young demographic, it's actually leading the way in terms of video socializing. So this is why short form and video content and mobile video content as a trend is key, because it's the platforms like social media that you need to be pushing that on. I've seen a number of businesses that use TikTok. We personally don't, because we know which social channels work for us. So we focus predominantly on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. They're the 5 channels. We don't have a TikTok channel, but we can run TikTok ads because we focus on the paid side of things. But one of our partner agencies, Trio, for example, they do their own TikToks. They're creating trends and show, because they're a content agency, so you would expect them to do that. But there are a lot of B2B examples out there, people creating TikTok ads. It's not about selling. It's about creating, engaging content, coming up with creative ideas, getting follows and engagements. And before you know it, you'll start seeing more traffic go to your site, or people start looking at other content you're creating and what value you can add. So it's not just influencers. A lot of video content out there is people editing different elements and creating memes and video memes, or vemes as I call them. But it's not just a young demographic anymore. When you look at the volume of downloads, there's only a finite amount of young people. So you've got to consider that the demographic is increasing. Yes, it's majority young, but increasingly over 2021, it's reached out to a much, much larger audiences. And you're starting to see different brands now invest into TikTok advertising. Any other questions? Nick, Wayne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was interested to see about the length of copy that Google are now sort of giving you marks for, if you like, because it always used to be that there was a minimum of 300 words before Google actually recognized it as a change to a website, for example. So that when people are doing blogs and uploading them onto websites, I would always recommend to people to do a minimum of 300 words. Is there still a minimum, or are we just talking about the EAT principle?
I would focus more on the EAT principle and the EAT guidelines. It's like a 102-page document, and it's all constantly being added and updated. If you want a number, I would say at least 500 if you're doing a content, but then you should be blogging regularly, like once a week. I understand it's quite hard to create a 2,000 word blog every week, but that's where Google's focus is on quality. And quality isn't just short and quick. I mean, we do blogs weekly, but our blogs are around about 700 to 800 words, and we focus on a particular set. And that helps us rank for particular keywords. We actually rank, I think, page 2 for SEO company in Leeds, actually rank position 2 right now. So a very, very competitive area, but we know what works in terms of that content. We have multiple content around SEO on our site to allow us to rank for that. But yes, more and more what we're seeing with some of our larger international clients is that the longer form the content, the better and the quicker the ranking of the keywords we've targeted that content for to get them to page 1. We started working with a client in November, and they're already on page 1 for lean consultancy in Yorkshire, which is such a regional word, and actually position 5. And that's because the content has been longer form, around 1,500 words on average. So I would say if you're going to look at a minimum, at least 500 if you're blogging weekly. If you're blogging bi-weekly or once a month, then try and hit 1,500 to 2,000 words, because it's going to take you longer to write, but focus on quality. I got David and Stuart, so I'm going to go with David first.
Man, could you just sort of define a little bit more what a micro-influencer is and how you would go about approaching one, what you should expect to be charged and all that kind of thing, especially in a B2B environment?
Yeah, so a micro-influencer, I would say, is anyone who has under 50,000 followers. Yeah, really. You could include 50 to 100, but anyone with 100,000 followers, I wouldn't class as a micro influencer. I'd call anyone with 50 to 100,000 followers as an established micro influencer, but a micro influencer is anyone between 10 and 50, as I mentioned in the trends. That is the sweet spot of micro influencers. Approaching them is a lot easier. There's a lot of platforms out there, a lot that are paid. So like Upfluence or Celebrity Intelligence, for example, which now includes social influencers. But if you want to find them, hashtags, look at the hashtags that you want to rank for, and hashtags are relevant to the product and services that you want to push for. See which influencers are using those hashtags to rank, because when they're posting organically, they're using hashtags on, platforms like TikTok, Instagram to rank for. Start searching for particular content or keywords within these platforms to see what comes up and who comes up, and start profiling them. And then reach out to them. There's nothing stopping you from reaching out to them directly by connecting with them and messaging privately. So micro influencers will more likely engage with businesses at a personal level. Large influencers will go through a platform like Upfluence, where they have their details, their engagement numbers, etc. And the cost with micro influencers is lower. You're more likely to be able to send them free products first, which is something we're doing with a couple of clients where we're sending out free products to get them to do a review, and then giving them a code and almost like an affiliate program where they get a bit of cash back for anyone who uses their code as a result of sharing that. So that's how you would kind of naturally engage with micro-influencers. Some will ask for money, which is fine, but it won't be as much compared to targeting the bigger influencers out there that have mass reach. But just notice that the engagement with micro-influencers double. So if you pick your micro-influencers carefully within your sector, you can really, really make a lot of traction and drive a lot of engagement with your products or services. Did that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Stuart, you had a question?
No, well, actually, just bounce.
Micro-influencer.
Yeah. Hello. I've got 15,000 LinkedIn followers. So yeah, if you want to have a chat, David, we can always talk. Actually, the question I've got is relevant to David as well. So I generally focus on B2B rather than B2C, and always have done. That's the sort of my background. And on B2B, Manny, you've mentioned it quite a few times, almost subconsciously in your presentation, because you've referenced Google. And of course, Google is fundamentally the primary route for B2B. But what's interesting, and it's sort of a question and a comment all combined in one. I think everyone for all of time now, certainly in all of time in the last 10, 15 years, everyone involved in the video production industry has always said, video's the most important thing in the world. But video is almost becoming disparate because of TikTok and because of Instagram and all this kind of stuff. And yet, if you're trying to use Google as your primary route to B2B traffic, how can you possibly control which channels are right for you to put your videos on? Because you can't just put the same video on all of them, can you?
No, but that's why I talk about mobile video as opposed to video in general. And video is going to become much more, I think already is a lot more affordable when you're only creating 10, 15-second videos. And a lot of them being animated in particular. I don't know if David will agree with me, but we really push clients to use video content. If your main channel and focus is Google, so you're a business or you're a general, B2C customer, it doesn't matter what you are, and you're using Google to drive traffic, that's fine. But not everyone goes to your site is going to convert. So how are you going to re-engage with them? That's where video can play its role. So if you're B2B, you need to be using B2B channels, predominantly like LinkedIn, to do retargeting. Facebook is a great platform for retargeting as well. And that's how you can then implement video as part of your wider strategy. If your core focus is Google, then use Google, but then implement video on your site and make it a mobile optimized site with a mobile video on site to engage them with. Then have a different message based on what content they're viewing. So if they go to our SEO page, we're going to be pushing an SEO retargeting video to them across LinkedIn and Facebook, because we know they landed on that page. Because as long as you've got a pixel on your website, you can then track who then goes on your website on a particular landing page and say, I want to retarget that person on Facebook with this SEO video because they went to our SEO page on our site. It's the same with what you would do with e-commerce, where you can retarget people that add to basket but don't purchase. They want to see the price of something, so you engage them with a 10% off as a new customer to come back and complete your purchase on site. That's how you would use video in that instance. In my top line recommendation, if your core focus is Google, use it from a retargeting perspective, but use it on your site. So we do predominantly invest in Google in terms of organically and paid as an agency. But if you go to a particular landing pages, you know we've got a video on our video page that explains what we do. Even SEO, we talk about video, and other elements, we've got video on those pages that are optimized using YouTube hosting to increase the page speed, so that our site isn't loading a lot. So that's something to consider as well, page speed with SEO, using embedded YouTube videos. So you're not having to host a video on your site, which slows that page loading significantly. So that's how you would use video as part of the process from Google, for example.